Grocery prices keep rising. The same produce that cost a few dollars 2 years ago now costs nearly twice as much. So most people clip coupons, chase sales, or accept a smaller cart for a bigger bill. But what if you could stop buying certain groceries forever? Some crops aren't planted for one season. They return every year, multiply on their own, and produce more food the longer they stay in the ground. Plant them once, and instead of renting food from the grocery store every week, you build a permanent supply in your own backyard. Today, we're counting down 7 hidden perennial crops that can replace entire sections of your grocery list. And stay for number 1, because one spring planting could produce premium harvests for the next 20 years. Number 7. Garlic chives. Let's start with a small grocery expense that quietly adds up. Fresh herbs. You buy a plastic pack of chives, use a little, and watch the rest wilt in the fridge. Then you buy another pack the next time you need them. Garlic chives end that cycle. This perennial herb doesn't die when the season ends. It retreats underground, stores energy in its roots, and returns every spring, often before the rest of your garden wakes up. And each year, the patch gets larger. Leave it to flower, and clusters of white, star-shaped blooms appear. Pollinators love them. Then the plant drops seed and starts producing new plants on its own. What looks like uncontrolled growth is actually free expansion. Once established, you simply step outside, cut exactly what you need, and leave the rest to keep growing. No more overpriced herb packs. No more wasted bunches. No more buying the same ingredient again and again. Garlic chives survive heat, tolerate dry spells, and keep producing for years with very little attention. You're not growing a garnish. You're building a permanent herb supply that multiplies while you sleep. That's number 7. And number 6 replaces a gourmet green most people premium prices for without realizing how easy it is to grow. Number 6. French sorrel. Number 6 replaces one of the most overpriced items in the produce aisle, gourmet greens. Anything labeled baby, artisanal, or specialty usually costs more for one reason: it spoils fast. French sorrel breaks that cycle. This cold-hardy perennial pushes up some of the first fresh leaves of the year, often while frost is still on the ground. And once the root crown is established, it can return for a decade or more without replanting. While lettuce demands constant reseeding, sorrel keeps coming back stronger, building deeper roots, producing more leaves, and handling tougher conditions every year. But the real surprise is the flavor. French sorrel has a sharp, lemony bite created by natural oxalic acid. It's the same bright flavor chefs prize in high-end kitchens, except yours won't come from a specialty store. It'll grow a few steps from your back door. Once established, sorrel tolerates neglect, resists many pests, and quickly replaces the leaves you harvest. Cut it, and it comes back. Harvest it again, and it returns again. No expensive greens, no rushed grocery trips, no waiting for the right season. Just a permanent supply of fresh, lemony leaves that becomes more productive every year. That's number 6. And number 5 starts producing before most gardens have even woken up. Number 5. Bloody dock. Number 5 solves a problem most gardeners accept without questioning: the early spring gap. Winter is ending, the soil is warming, but your garden still has nothing ready to eat, so you're forced back to the store for imported salad greens at premium prices. Bloody dock closes that gap. The moment the ground begins to thaw, this perennial pushes up fresh leaves marked with deep red veins. It looks ornamental, but it's completely edible. And unlike lettuce, it doesn't disappear after one season. Its root system survives underground and returns year after year without new seeds, trays, or replanting. Bloody dock also gives you 2 different harvest windows. The young leaves are mild enough for salads. Later, as the plant matures, the flavor becomes sharper and more lemony. 1 plant, 2 uses, 1 permanent root system. And while annual lettuce bolts, turns bitter, and dies in warm weather, bloody dock keeps holding its place. Once established, it tolerates poor soil, survives cold snaps, and spreads slowly on its own. You don't have to restart it. You simply walk outside in early spring and harvest from a bed that is already producing. That's number 5, the green that starts working before the rest of your garden wakes up. Next, we're going vertical with a plant that turns one stalk into a towering wall of food. So far, these first 3 crops can erase your herb and salad green spending. Garlic chives, French sorrel, bloody dock. They may seem like small grocery purchases, but you buy them again and again, and over time, that cost adds up. But now the countdown changes. The next 4 crops don't just replace garnishes or occasional greens. They target the heavy hitters, the vegetables and staples that take up more space in your cart and more money from your budget. Before we continue, which of the first 3 would you plant this spring? Garlic chives, French sorrel, or bloody dock? Drop your answer in the comments, because number 4 doesn't grow like a normal vegetable. It grows upward, forms a permanent woody stalk, and can become a towering wall of edible leaves. Number 4, perennial tree collards. Number 4 replaces one of the most repeated purchases in a healthy grocery cart, kale and collard greens. You buy a bag, use it for smoothies, soups, or dinner. Then you buy another one the following week. Tree collards break that cycle. Unlike ordinary greens that stay low to the ground, this perennial grows upward on a thick woody stalk. Some plants reach 6 feet or more. One planting can become a towering column of edible leaves that keeps producing season after season. And because the stalk stays in place, the plant doesn't waste energy starting from scratch every spring. It keeps building. More height, more branches, more leaves. That height also lifts much of the harvest away from ground-level pests. And here's where it gets even better. Cut a healthy piece of stalk, root it, and you can grow another plant for free. You're not just harvesting food, you're cloning your own grocery supply. In the right climate, one established tree collard can produce leaves for much of the year. Harvest the lower leaves for tonight's meal, while the top keeps growing. Then return weeks later to find new leaves replacing the ones you removed. No empty garden bed, no weekly bags of greens, just one permanent structure becoming taller, leafier, and more productive every year. That's number 4. And number 3 doesn't just return each season, it multiplies underground and above ground at the same time. Number 3, Babington's leek. Number 3 replaces one of the most expensive vegetables in the produce aisle, leeks. You buy them by the stalk, use them once, then go back and buy more. Babington's leek ends that cycle at the root. This wild perennial doesn't depend on seed to return. It forms small underground bulbs that divide and multiply every season. Plant one clump, and within a few years, you're no longer growing a single leek. You're managing a self-expanding colony. But that's only half the trick. Babington's leek can also produce bulbils at the top of its flowering stalks. So while it multiplies underground, it can multiply above ground too. One plant, 2 reproduction systems. Almost no effort from you. Once the patch is established, you simply dig up what you need and leave the rest untouched. The remaining bulbs keep dividing beneath the soil, quietly rebuilding the supply. No new seed packets, no annual planting schedule, no paying premium prices every time you want to make soup. Just a permanent allium patch that expands on its own and returns every year with more than you started with. That's number 3. Now we reach the 2 heavyweights. One can multiply beneath the soil faster than most gardeners expect. The other can produce premium harvests for 20 years or more. Now we've reached the 2 heavyweights. These aren't herbs, garnishes, or occasional greens. They're serious food crops. Both return without annual replanting. Both produce substantial harvests. And both can replace some of the most expensive staples in your grocery cart. Number 2 spreads beneath the soil so aggressively, many gardeners struggle to contain it. And number 1 takes patience. But once established, it can keep producing premium harvests for 20 years or more. Number 2. Jerusalem artichoke. Number 2 replaces one of the heaviest staples in your grocery cart, potatoes. But unlike potatoes, Jerusalem artichokes don't need to be replanted after every harvest. Also called sunchokes, they turn one spring planting into an underground food supply that keeps rebuilding itself. Above ground, the plant looks like a giant sunflower and can grow more than 8 feet tall. But the real harvest is hidden below. Each plant produces clusters of edible tubers, and every tuber left in the soil becomes part of next year's crop. Miss a few during harvest and you probably will, and they simply sprout again. That's why sunchokes multiply so aggressively. A single plant can produce several pounds of tubers, give the patch room to expand, and one small planting can grow into a serious yearly harvest. But here's the warning. This crop can become too successful. It spreads through the soil and can quickly take over a garden bed, so plant it in a dedicated area or use a root barrier. The payoff is worth it. Sunchokes tolerate cold winters, poor soil, and dry conditions once established. The tubers can be roasted, mashed, added to soups, or fermented. They also contain a lot of inulin, so start with small portions if your digestion isn't used to high-fiber foods. This isn't a crop you keep replacing. It's an underground food factory that survives winter, multiplies through neglect, and returns every year with more than you planted. And now, number 1. It takes patience at first, but once established, it can reward you for decades. Number 1. Asparagus. Taking the number 1 spot is asparagus, the crop that turns one spring planting into decades of premium harvests. But it demands patience first. For the first 2 or 3 years, the crown is building a deep root system underground. Harvest too early and you weaken it. Leave it alone and the payoff can last for 20 years or more. Once mature, asparagus moves fast. A spear can go from barely visible to harvest ready in just days. You cut one, another rises behind it, then another. When the harvest season ends, the remaining shoots grow into tall, fern-like fronds that capture sunlight and send energy back into the roots for next year. The plant is rebuilding its own future harvest. And that matters because asparagus is one of the most expensive seasonal vegetables in the store. You pay a premium for tender spears that spoil quickly and must be harvested fast. But in your garden, those same spears rise from crowns you planted years earlier. No new seed, no new seedlings, no complete replanting every spring. Just the same permanent bed returning on schedule year after year. That's why asparagus earns the top spot. It doesn't multiply wildly. It doesn't take over the garden. It simply stays where you plant it, grows stronger, and keeps producing. You're not planting a vegetable for one season. You're buying 20 years of future harvests up front. The goal isn't to grow every vegetable you eat. It's to stop buying the same food again and again when one planting could keep producing for years. Garlic chives, French sorrel, bloody dock, tree collards, Babington's leek, sunchokes, asparagus, they all grow differently, but the principle is the same. Plant once, harvest repeatedly, and let your soil become more valuable every year. That's the difference between buying groceries and owning a food-producing system. So which of these 7 crops would you plant first this spring? Tell me in the comments, and subscribe for more overlooked plants that can turn an ordinary backyard into a permanent food supply.